Good morning and welcome to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Matthew in real life and Blind Run on the internet. And today we have plenty of fun topics to discuss, including but not limited to the fact that we are getting reasonably close to the bottom if you consider the fact that over 50% of the current Bitcoin wallets are at a loss. In addition to that, we are hearing rumblings of reports of Coinbase possibly being in trouble, and basically an alert that you should possibly be removing funds from even Coinbase, which is quite surprising to me. We'll cover it and why they think that that is the case, of course, here in just a bit. Solana-based Serum may have been compromised during the FTX hack, and fork completed and community is moving forward. So we're going to be talking about Solana a little bit and where they're headed there. And Vitalik Buterin, Vitalik my balls, says something important is about to happen, but it's cryptic and we don't really know what he's talking about. And then finally, we will be covering some tech as well, including but not limited Apple to start sourcing iPhone memory chips from Samsung as Chinese suppliers are unable to comply due to the trading ban. AMD 7900 series or 7000 series graphics cards will be in better supply than the RTX 40 series GPUs, and the Ryzen 7000 series CPUs have had a price cut. We also have new miner releases from Team Black Miner as well as SRB Miner, and I want to welcome each and every single one of y'all in here today. Quick elephant in the room right now, a couple of them, right? Next week, I will be starting a full-time job as a Linux systems administrator, and as such, I will not have the time to do a morning show anymore. I'm sorry, I work in IT. I will be watching other people that are streaming in the morning, probably just as you are now. However, as opposed to me streaming myself, I will just be participating in being a viewer now, once again, backing off the content creation a little bit too. Outside of that, the next thing that is going to be happening is that we will be basically shifting the time slot for the show. So my plan is to do it in the evening. However, I do not know that that is going to work. I looked at my schedule. I've picked up basically a part-time job as well as a full-time job. And between the two, my time's going to be a little tight. And then to compound on top of that, we are moving the game streams over to Rumble. And Rumble, we actually have a contract with to stream over on Rumble for basically 12 and a half hours a week, and that is a commitment. So down in the description below is a link to Rumble. Over on Rumble, you will see a stream every single day on over there for about 2 hours a day, right? 2 hours a day, about, right? So I think it's 6 days a week, so I'll take Sundays off. I might make a couple streams a little bit longer on the weekend here and there, just depending, but I also have a side job that I'll be working, or basically another job I'll be working on the weekends. This is because we aren't making any money on the YouTube channel, right? So YouTube channel's not making money, crypto mining farm's not making money, and I have to pay for all of that. So as it sits right now, it's not a full wrap-up shop type thing. It's just from the perspective of time, I don't know when I'm going to do it all. So we're going to have to get it worked out. The fact that we have to do 2 hours a day on Rumble means that I don't know when the show's going to happen yet. My current schedule looks to be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. At 5 p.m., I have to meet the kiddo over at Jiu-Jitsu and do all of that with him. And that goes until 8 p.m. at night, 8:30. So by the time I get drop off and all that done and then get showered up and stuff like that, it's already 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then we still have to stream on Rumble. So, I don't know where we go from here right now. Unfortunately, guys, I just don't know. We've covered all what the channel makes and everything on the Twitch streams and stuff if you want to go over there and check it out. But yeah, it's not profitable at all. Maybe after taxes and not even. Full net revenue last month was $1,800. It doesn't even cover child support. Like, that's pretty much it, bro. So that aside, a little bit of depressing news for the rest of the week. We'll be streaming in the morning over here. Then we'll be streaming at 3 p.m. over on Rumble, and that will be this week's schedule. And then we will have a dedicated video on Saturday. Hopefully 2 dedicated videos overall. And yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. So let's go ahead and hop into the ad, and then we will get going over here. Of course, the ad I need to update. Today's sponsor is myself. So to support the channel, click the join button below the video, and you will get access to our privately hosted Rocket Chat. Selecting the $1.99 option will get you access, and after that, you need to head over to Octomine. All right, and welcome back. So first things first, let's talk about Coinbase. Exit all your funds from Coinbase. It's a sinking ship, alerts the Black Swan author. This week's financial crisis has had a far-reaching effect on the crypto market. Values of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, including Cardano, Solana, XRP, and Dogecoin, have declined significantly since the start of the year, possibly as much as 10%. Recent reports that Coinbase's CEO, Brian Armstrong, has sold off shares for $1.6 million or more have spooked investors even more, just as the market was starting to regain footing. By referring to Coinbase as a sinking ship, author Nassim Taleb of The Black Swan has recommended investors exit their holdings immediately. Now, my humble opinion here, I don't know how the author of The Black Swan, knows anything that anybody else doesn't know at this point. It's wise in general to remove your cryptocurrency from centralized exchanges. We've been talking about this since way before any of this happened, because if you have been in the crypto space long enough, you've gone through a couple cycles and you know that during a bear market, exchanges start falling, and large exchanges that you would expect to never even go anywhere, even possibly something like Coinbase or Binance, have been, historically known to actually be dissolved or insolvent. And then obviously what happens then is that the user funds go missing. And because of that, you can't get any of your crypto out. They pay old creditors or debtors, and you don't get any of your money out. So not your keys, not your crypto. We stand by that. Nothing really changes here. The question is, with reading something like this, is not whether or not you should basically self-custody your cryptocurrency, but the question is whether or not there is actually something going on with Coinbase. And using the author of The Black Swan as a source for a reason for Coinbase being a sinking ship is not enough evidence in and of itself, in my humble opinion. Now, the reason that he's giving, though, is interesting. So, in light of accusations that CEO Brian Armstrong sold shares of Coinbase for more than $1.6 million, renowned Lebanese-American statistician and author of The Black Swan, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, has recommended investors and users abandon the company. The news that Armstrong allegedly sold 29,732 Class A Coinbase shares for $1.6 million on November 11th has caused more worldwide shockwaves following the series of terrible mishaps on Satoshi Street. The details were disclosed in a filing submitted by Coinbase with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Apparently, Armstrong has also converted Class B shares to Class A shares. Taleb regards the sign of looming danger surrounding the company, or regards this as a sign, and he advises the general public not to invest in Coinbase until there is more clarity. The author claims that no CEO ever sells their shares, since it is unethical to do so in the eyes of the investors, unless and until the situation is critical. His comments have instigated even more fear and panic among the marketplace participants. Take what you can out of the sinking ship. In the real world, that is pre-crypto, a CEO never sell his or her shares while shouting all is okay. A CEO selling shares expresses such a loss of confidence in the company, it is taken extremely seriously. Taleb continued by saying that investors should take CEO stock sales very seriously because they may indicate the company is having problems. The fact that it is such a small percentage, as Taleb pointed out, is the most concerning aspect of the situation. The timing of Taleb's comments is appropriate as the crypto industry is facing a contagion due to the FTX collapse. This leads to the question, what's next on the crypto horizon? The once safe zone is now a threat to financial stability. Let's examine how the community has reacted to this. In response to Taleb's claims, Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin I said Vitalik. It's so catchy. Vitalik, you know what I mean? Vitalik Buterin took it up on himself to come forward and debunk these claims. Buterin emphasized the psychological burden of holding one's entire wealth in an illiquid asset. The Canadian-born Russian programmer added that it is wise to diversify one's holdings, which doesn't necessarily indicate trouble. According to him, there's no harm in mixing things up, and doing so can help one remain confident in the investments. Interestingly, a week after Coinbase went public on NASDAQ, it was reported that Armstrong sold $291 million in Coinbase shares on the launch day. SEC filings show Armstrong sold 749,999 shares in 3 batches. Incidentally, it was also revealed last month that Armstrong would be selling around 2% of his Coinbase shares to raise money for scientific research. In addition to all of this, Shopify CEO Lutke Tobias has been on a Coinbase purchasing binge since he joined the board of directors in January. During the time frame of this article, Coinbase has fallen 4.33% versus the dollar, trading at 46.76. Last year, the global financial crisis has caused Coin to drop 86.52%. The collapse of FTX and Alameda, once worth more than $30 billion is catastrophic from an investor's perspective, but the broader effect is a lack of trust in crypto. In the long run, these incidents may make investors hesitant to invest. All in all, it's important to understand that crypto has yielded impressive profits for people and has also caused significant losses. Investors should not invest in uncontrolled markets without understanding the hazards. In high-risk situations like crypto, investors can lose everything, as it is apparent by the FTX crisis. Now, in my humble opinion, one of the companies that has survived, multiple cycles within cryptocurrency and remained pretty solid as far as a centralized exchange is concerned in the US has been Coinbase. And given the track record of Brian Armstrong, as pointed out in the article, it looks like he does have a history of selling off shares. So he does not really necessarily act in the real world or pre-crypto type CEO as Nassim Taleb is basically saying he should. So just because one person sees this as a signal to Coinbase being a sinking ship does not necessarily mean that that is the case. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below, as well as the live stream. That doesn't mean that I think you should keep your crypto in Coinbase, right? That's completely different. Especially, and I'm speaking to specifically the centralized exchange, because yes, Coinbase has their own wallet, which has their own keys. There's some nuance to saying Coinbase as a whole. But the main thing I want to make sure you understand is, just because I don't necessarily think this is a sign of a sinking ship, it doesn't mean that I think you should hold any crypto within a centralized exchange, period, ever, end of story. That being said, Coinbase and other exchanges should be primarily making money off of exchange rates, like fees. And as long as they are participating in the ecosystem in that manner, they should stay out of trouble for the most part. It's when you start to see over-leveraged offerings, or over-leverage, and you're seeing offerings usually from the outside just looking in on programs that specifically have like some sort of payback percentage return rate, right? The earn programs, those types of things that are built into a centralized exchange, then you start to see issues. You know, any of the CFI stuff, anything like BlockFi, you know, these are built into, of course, things like Coinbase, who actually has the lowest percentage though, by the way, but things like crypto.com, BlockFi, Celsius, all of these platforms that had it. If it's a centralized version of these kind of earn programs, I would be a little bit more cautious surrounding them. Now, Solana-based Serum may have been compromised during the FTX hack. Fork completed and community is moving forward. So, as you guys may or may not know, a huge backing of Solana was from FTX, which is going to cause some contagion. But apparently there is some light at the end of the tunnel here. So Serum, a decentralized exchange software built in the Solana ecosystem, may have been compromised when the hacking of bankrupt FTX occurred on Saturday. A new report shows that FTX had $8.9 billion in liabilities before it filed for bankruptcy and $900 million in liquid assets, which included $2.2 billion of Serum. FTX announced that the exchange had been hacked on its official Telegram message, and as a result, more than $600 million in cryptocurrency vanished from the FTX wallets. Various tokens, along with Solana, left FTX's official wallets and were transferred to decentralized exchanges like 1inch. Solana developers suspect the FTX hack may have also compromised Serum. According to a report, Solana founder Anatoly Yakovenko, I know Anatoly is pronounced correctly, but I think I got the last name potentially incorrect, said in a tweet message that Serum's original key may have been compromised with the FTX hack, and developers are working on forking Serum's code. He said that the original Serum could only be updated via a private key that FTX and not the Serum DAO controlled. Interesting that FTX would control that key. A pseudonymous developer called Mango Max said on Twitter that he was leading the Serum fork efforts. A Solana spokesperson on Sunday confirmed to Benzinga that the fork happened and the community is moving forward. So essentially they did a hack for the Serum token here, and everything appears to be okay as far as that's concerned. I think you still have worries and concerns surrounding Solana, in my humble opinion, not financial advice, just because of the ties to FTX and the amount of backing that SBF had put behind it. But it's hard to really look in and see how that will affect it directly. Overall, though, like we already know, Solana has a ton of technical issues, going down over 8 times in less than a year, and not really a reliable blockchain. You add on top of that the fact that they are essentially centralized, and then their tie-ins with FTX, and I don't see Solana as a trustworthy project, in my humble opinion. But speaking of trustworthy people, we have Ethereum's Vitalik Buterin saying something important is about to happen. This is a cryptic tweet that happened not too long ago. Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin recently shared a cryptic tweet that has puzzled the cryptocurrency community. Buterin tweeted that he had heard, quote, through the grapevine that something important was about to happen without going into detail. He said, please recognize the fact that my elite social connections to people who are early to know things make me cool, and please help me validate my self-image of coolness, the Canadian programmer added. Now, I saw this tweet in and of itself. What I thought was interesting was people's reactions to this tweet in general. And I'm going to apologize for the heater that just turned on back here because we will have some white noise. Hopefully that gives you some peace for the day or something. But that aside, speaking to this in particular, when I read it, it seemed like a sarcastic attack towards somebody else within the industry. This seems to be the way Vitalik responds to a lot of different things when he is just randomly browsing Twitter. It is kind of the nerdy, self-deprecating opposite version of Donald Trump, is kind of how he tweets, meaning that he just will be... he doesn't reply directly to the person, but he will make some offhand tweet just to the public. I think this is in response to basically somebody else that was saying something along the lines of maybe something doomsday was coming, but not, and alluding to that, but not actually stating it. And then him being like, oh yeah, I have these elite, kind of sarcastic. That's how I read it. I'd like to hear how you guys think about it in the comment section and so on. But I found this article interesting because it talks about the way other people were interpreting it. So dumbfounded by the strange tweet, the cryptocurrency community is struggling to figure out whether Buterin was trolling or actually trying to tell the community something. I think it was sarcastic, personally. Buterin's veiled warning comes after a doom-laden tweet posted by prominent venture capitalist Paul Graham, in which the latter said that the cryptocurrency economy was about to experience a systemic risk based on information that he had heard from a trustworthy person. Quote, I don't know anything concrete, but if I were exposed, I would be concerned, end quote, he said. So going to my previous point, I think that it is very possible that Vitalik saw this tweet and is basically taking a sarcastic dig at Paul Graham here, and that's how I see it. But should we be worried about doom surrounding cryptocurrency? Potentially, I suppose so. At least like from the institutional investor perspective, yes, right? We're seeing collapses of pretty much all of the centralized entities across cryptocurrency. Not necessarily a negative thing if you are based on the fundamentals of cryptocurrency, specifically as they pertain to Bitcoin and the Bitcoin white paper. This is a culling. This is a cut down of all the fat, cutting off of all the fat. It's a detachment from the traditional financial system. And I think that by and large, this cyclical nature of Bitcoin is necessary, and the bear market is necessary to cull the herd, right? That's how I see it. It is possible that Buterin was simply mocking Graham's vague warning of doom, which is what I tend to believe personally. Quote, predicting an impending systemic risk to crypto is like predicting rain in England. Yep, you called it, not news, end quote, one Twitter user wrote. While the cryptocurrency community seemingly shrugged off Graham's tweet as pointless FUD, there are still concerns about whether other major companies could be affected by the FTX crisis. As reported by You Today, there is some speculation about whether or not Barry Silbert's digital currency group empire is actually solvent, with its Genesis subsidiary struggling to raise funds. And there is possible contagion, of course, as it pertains to Gemini, because Gemini is running custody for Genesis, and Genesis was, well, what were they doing? Earn programs, right? And you get into a position where like Genesis Earn is in trouble and those holdings were in Gemini, and then you have contagion and blah, blah, blah. That being said, once again, not your keys, not your crypto. The fundamentals of crypto is that I, as an individual, can transact with you as an individual without any third party. Third parties do include Genesis, of course, as well as Gemini. I do not need them to transact with you. Culling of the herd, getting rid of the centralized exchange pieces of cryptocurrency is not necessarily a bad thing, especially if they are bad actors purely focused on economies of scale. And we can get into that as well on Bitcoin mining at some point, because that is something that is concerning to me about Bitcoin in general. That being said, there is some sort of bullish news going on here. And that's because, well, if people are at a loss, there is less likely, if a Bitcoin wallet is at a loss, it's less likely that a Bitcoin from that wallet is going to be sold. And more than 50% of Bitcoin addresses are now in a loss. Are we hitting peak bear market? Well, usually if we're talking about a majority of the addresses within a certain currency being at a loss, then we are getting close to, well, you know, like we're asking, close to the bottom here. So previous bear markets ended with the majority of addresses being out of the money. On-chain data shows. So what does that mean? Well, if we're talking about, you know, previous cycles, once a majority of the Bitcoin addresses are at a loss, then you're at the bottom and we start building back up, right? Most addresses holding Bitcoin, the largest cryptocurrency, are now losing money. The first time that's happened since the start of the coronavirus-induced crash of March 2020. Just over 51% or 24.56 million addresses of the total 47.85 million are below purchase price on the investments, according to data provided by blockchain analytics firm Into the Block. About 45% are in the money, that is, boasting unrealized gains, while the rest are roughly at break even. Into the Block defines out of money addresses as those that acquired coins at an average price higher than Bitcoin's going market rate of $16,067. Get some oxygen in there. The bearish momentum looks overdone, according to Into the Block's Lucas Atamuro. Previous bear markets ended with the majority of addresses being out of the money. The percentage of out of the money addresses stood at 55% in January 2019. Bitcoin bottomed near 3,200 around the same time it began a bull run 3 months later. The percentage of addresses out of the money rose to 62% during the depths of the 2015 bear market. Past data, however, is no guarantee of future results, and the fallout from the recent collapse of FTX may bring more pain to the market. So, what are we talking about in general? If we compare to the 2015 bear market, we would see 62%. If we compare to the 2019 bear market, we would see 55%. And if we compare to the previous bear market of like basically 2018, 2019, we do have a little bit more timeline to go on, but well, actually on both of these. So could we go down further? Obviously, you can always go down further. We can say specifically that essentially we have another 4% of total Bitcoin wallets at a minimum to meet last bear market cycle or bear cycle pattern, or up to 62%, which would mean that we would have essentially another 11% of wallets needing to go out of money before we hit the full bottom. So are we at, according to this data, what we've interpreted from here, the bottom of Bitcoin? The answer would be no. We have 4 to 11% left to drop or to get out of the money of wallets before we are actually at bottom. So are we at bottom? Once again, technically, according to this, no. And that also makes sense because the bear market usually does have to last a little bit longer here. You know, we're very, very early into the bear for the most part. That being said, Cardano is launching a new privacy blockchain and token out of nowhere. This is a really interesting one. Charles Hoskinson, CEO of the firm that's behind Cardano, says the network will strive to preserve privacy while giving access to regulators and auditors. You see, here's the thing. It's not privacy if you give regulators and auditors access. That's my humble opinion, right? This is the similar argument that we've seen across the internet for a long time. It's kind of like, well, you can have privacy, you know, from bad actors, but you can't have privacy from government officials. That's essentially the argument at the end of the day. And then essentially all you really have is the CIA and the FBI or whatever developing whatever those technologies are so that they have access to them, or working with companies like Apple or whoever it may be. So they have access to it, but nobody else does, right? And that's what this sounds like. This sounds like a crypto version of what went wrong with the internet. My humble opinion. Input Output Global, the firm behind Cardano blockchain, is releasing a new privacy-focused blockchain called Midnight and a token called Dust to accompany the new network. Midnight, which is underpinned by zero-knowledge proof technology, is one of many side chains now being deployed around Cardano, and will go beyond previous privacy coin projects by delivering zero-knowledge proof smart contracts, IOG CEO Charles Hoskinson said during an event at Edinburgh University in Scotland on Friday. The system will walk the line between preserving privacy and allowing regulators and auditors a backdoor into the system when permission is granted, he said. Midnight has evolved privacy token or privacy coin technology where everything was anonymous by default, which is what Zcash and Monero did with Snarks and Ring signatures, Hoskinson said in an interview with CoinDesk, referring to two other privacy coins and their encryption methods. This is a completely new way of writing and running private smart contracts and private computation, so you can have a private DEX or go mine an anonymous data set or these types of things. And see, here's where things get interesting and unfortunately is disappointing. What do I like about this? A privacy-focused smart contract coin, right? Like, that sounds amazing. Privacy-focused decentralized exchange is awesome. However, it's already been basically put out there that you will be giving access to regulators and governments, right? Which is, like, in my humble opinion, ends up defeating the purpose. Privacy coins have always been lionized by crypto libertarians, but have been viewed warily by regulators fearful of how the technology might help facilitate financial crime. Yet privacy is something that every business has a legal requirement to explore these days, Hoskinson said. Although he noted that the difficulty of figuring out how to add privacy to blockchains has prevented its adoption. Quote, you need programmability. You can't just take Zcash and fork it and somehow it'll work, Hoskinson said. Quote, what is needed was the ability to write this stuff in a normal programming language, not something weird like Snark, but JavaScript or something like that. Something developers can understand and guarantee you have privacy. A paper published 2 years back by IOG titled Kachina, which dives into privacy-enhanced smart contracts, is now coming to fruition in the real world, Hoskinson said. This has generated interest with the once-hyped world of enterprise blockchains, he added, explaining that Midnight will be working with Hyperledger, for example, which is a consortium of large firms exploring private and permission ledgers for things like supply chain management. This is what the enterprise absolutely wants, and we have seen Walmart and some of the largest companies in the world working on privacy with Hyperledger, Hoskinson said. At the same time, we can service traditional cryptocurrency needs, especially when you look at DEXs that want to prevent front running and these types of things. In my humble opinion, what do I see? Well, obviously, a privacy-focused smart contract coin sounds great. I think in general, if I was going to, when I see this launch, I would be interested in it enough to invest in it personally. Obviously, I don't do financial advice on this channel, and I am primarily focused on mining. Unfortunately, I don't think that this will be a proof of work coin necessarily. I will have to follow this further and further along because it does come from Zcash, which is proof of work, right? And in addition to that, it's disappointing that regulators, basically right off the snap, regulators and auditors will have access to all of the, basically a back door to audit transactions, which kind of at the end of the day defeats the purpose, in my humble opinion. So I'm not a big fan of it from that perspective. I also think that I have a lot of questions when it comes to Hoskinson in general and his, I guess his principles in general. So what are the motives here, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. That being said, let's get into some tech news. Apple is to start sourcing iPhone memory chips from Samsung as Chinese supplier is unable to comply due to trade ban. Apple and its supply chain have reportedly hit a temporary roadblock, with the company attempting to scale this obstacle by sourcing iPhone memory chips from Samsung. With a U.S. trade ban in effect, Apple is barred from conducting business with Chinese suppliers, and the technology giant will need to start relying on other manufacturers. Apple originally intended to source a 128-bit 3D NAND flash memory from Chinese supplier Yangtze Memory Technologies, YMTC, and use this component in iPhones sold in China. The move would have happened as early as this year, but then the US government intervened. Assuming the deal would have received the green light, Apple would have reportedly sourced around 40% of all iPhone memory chips from YMTC. Instead, the California-based firm now has to rely on Samsung, one of the largest storage memory manufacturers in the world, to fulfill around 40% of iPhone chip orders, according to DigiTimes. Samsung already supplies Apple with iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max displays in the millions, and giving more orders to the Korean giant means Apple will have to depend more on its biggest rival in the smartphone space. Earlier, we reported that due to tighter export controls, YMTC can no longer supply Apple with iPhone memory chips. YMTC is already being investigated by the U.S. Commerce Department as it broke the law, violating export controls by selling to Huawei, a phone maker that has already experienced one of the worst trading sanctions for a tech firm. Samsung possesses immense resources, and given the scale Apple operates on, both could arrive at a mutual understanding where Samsung increases output while charging its partner less due to the sheer chip shipments it will potentially provide Apple. Two Japanese firms, Western Digital and Kioxia, are currently a part of Apple's iPhone memory chip supply chain, with a Korean firm, SK Hynix, which is Hynix Memory, covering the remaining orders. It is unclear of how Samsung can provide Apple in the coming months, but we will find out in the near future. Now, I always like to say HODL silicon, because when we look at a lot of what's going on as far as supply chain sanctions and the kind of the economic battle between essentially China and the Western world, you end up in a position where a big chunks like this, 40% of iPhone, is getting pulled out there. And if you see something like Taiwan end up being under the Chinese government and losing its own sovereignty, we would be in a position where TSMC would stop manufacturing as well. So when I say HODL silicon, it doesn't mean like HODL really old cards or anything like that, or, a HODL S9s or whatnot. It just means like pay attention to what is happening in the tech market, especially as it pertains to manufacturing. Like we've seen recently, TSMC has said the US is not ready to start manufacturing. TSMC is working on coming to the US, as well as we have, of course, Intel working on plants in Ohio, etc. I think Ohio and Washington. None of these are going to be ready for production until like 2025 or beyond. TSMC seems to think that it will be beyond 2025 before production is ready. And it's definitely not to the point to where it's ready to keep up with something like TSMC's plants in Taiwan. So I think it's important to pay attention to this. And like I said, doesn't mean like HODL old silicon necessarily, but I do think that there is going to potentially be a need for, small electronics repair. ASIC repair is obviously something that I've been interested in lately, if you've been watching the channel, so you can follow along with me on that sort of thing. And there is another training up in Wisconsin that is going to be covering ASIC repair by, of course, Mr. Scott. It's crypto mining with Crypto Miner CHR you can check out, and check out that video if you're interested in what that covers. But moving on from there, it's not all doom and gloom. It does look like we're going to get better supply. Oddly enough, for the first time, it sounds like AMD's Radeon series is going to have better supply than NVIDIA GeForce series, at launch at least. AMD is reportedly stocking up a large supply of 7900 RDNA 3 graphics cards for launch next month. I believe it's December 12th, by the way. In a report published by MyDrivers, who are quoting the upstream supply chain, it looks like AMD has stocked up a large volume of Radeon RX 7900 series graphics cards based on the RDNA 3 GPU architecture that will be ready for launch next month on the 13th of December. Oh, I was off by a day. It is stated that the Red Team has been increasing the orders of Radeon RX 7900 series graphics cards so that gamers can get them with relative ease at launch. The report also states that the first supply of the AMD Radeon RX 7900 series graphics cards will include both Radeon 7900 XTX and 7900 XT models will not be small, and is reportedly much better than what the supply of the 40 series from NVIDIA graphics cards were at launch. We've come to know that over the past few days, NVIDIA has shipped a total of 160,000 Ada GPUs, of which 81.25% units are for the RTX 4090 8102 GPU, and the remaining 18.75% units are for the RTX 4080 or the 8103 GPU. The GeForce RTX 4090 was sold out entirely at launch. However, the card can be found with some effort in retail outlets. Meanwhile, the 4080, despite shipping in lower quantities, can still be found in abundance in several stores. The card has also been scalped, and one can find several listings over at eBay. The 4080 situation is largely due to its pricing, which is an absurd $11.99. And also the fact that the AMD has promised competitive performance per dollar and watt against the 4080. The 7900 XTX has been positioned directly against the 4080 in AMD's marketing slides, so users are really keen on knowing the final results of these two products before they make their buying decision. If AMD really does manage to knock off the RTX 4080 graphics card in the final GPU reviews, then we can see a surge in the already surging demand for the 7900 series, and more so of the 7900 XTX graphics card, which costs $999 US. The extra volume of graphics cards will really come in handy, and with no crypto going on now, we should expect the cards to be available at retail. That being said, if we scroll down here, I want you crypto miners to pay attention to something. Memory bus, 384-bit on the 7900 XTX, 256-bit on, of course, the 4080. Here's where things get interesting. Yes, you do have GDDR6 on the 7900 XT compared to GDDR6X, which is faster on the 4080. That being said, the memory clock is getting much better on GDDR6 at 20 gigabits per second. It's only 2.4 gigabits per second slower than the GDDR6X on the 4080. What this results in for total bandwidth is having on a 7900 XTX for basically $200 less, 960 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth, as opposed to, of course, on the 4080 side, only 716 gigabytes a second of bandwidth. What does this mean? Well, we already know GDDR6 memory hash rates for memory intensive algorithms. And we know that GDDR6 also runs usually cooler, meaning it's easier to run. It's pretty standard. We figured out basically how this is going to hash. We're talking about basically a card that's going to be running at 3090, 3080, or 3090, 3090 Ti, and 4090 hash rates for Ethereum, Ergo, and so on. The question will be, what does it end up running on, of course, the other side of the fence, right? So what does it do on the core intensive side? And that's yet to be seen. We'll have to have them in hand before we can really make that assumption. But I can tell you that already the 7900 XTX is $200 less and will outperform the 4080 in mining memory intensive algorithms. So ETC hash, like I said, Autolicos 2 probably even is still going to do better at things like Flux and so on. We'll just have to see how much of the core performance there is in this. It will more than likely, in my humble opinion, run slower in probably something like kaspa, but that's yet to be seen, because technically the max clocks are still the same, right? And if we look at FP32 performance, technically, the 7900 XTX is faster at 61 teraflops versus 49 teraflops. There we go. So then finally, we do have some good news on the CPU side for you CPU miners out there. It's not quite competitive with, the standard 3900X quite yet, but the Ryzen 7000 series CPUs are getting amazing price cuts ahead of Black Friday. 7950X is now down to $574 US. The 7900X is now down to $474. The 7700X is now down to $349 US, and the 7600X is down to $249 US. Consumers residing in the US can now also benefit from significant price cuts on these 7000 series CPUs, and that will be on the Newegg's early Black Friday deals. The European price cuts are mainly due to the market price adjustments. The Newegg deals in the US market come as an early preparation for Black Friday, which is next week. We'll be seeing a lot of deals in the coming weeks, but this is by far the lowest price we've seen the 7000 series CPUs. And you can see a screenshot of them here. So all four of them are down in price, with the largest price drop being on the 7950X, coming down 18%. But the best budget price drop is that $250 Ryzen 5 7600X with a 17% drop. And that is pretty good, coming in at $250. Micro Center is also offering up to $100 US off on a brand new X670 motherboard with the purchase of a 7000 series CPU, or $100 off and a free 32 gigabyte DDR5 kit, along with the purchase of the top Ryzen 9 and Ryzen 7 chips. Starting tomorrow, we will be looking at even more deals from various retailers, not just on the Ryzen 7000 series CPUs, but on other components from AMD and its competitors as well. So there you go. I think overall, it's looking much better, I think, for AMD. If they can get that 7600 down to $199, I'd be I'd say biting the bullet on the 7600X would definitely be worth it. We do have some miner releases. Let's go ahead and get into those today, of course. Team Black Miner launched a new miner 3 days ago, version 1.75. They removed 2 bugs in the vert hash mining, and they reduced the rejected shares and improved the pool speed in the ETH Proof of Work and Ethereum Classic pools. And they improved the performance on ZIL.me, ZIL switching pools, and their ETH proxy 0 rejects on the DAG switch. So there you go. Then we also had a miner released 2 days ago from SRB Miner, version 1.1.2. They added the SHA-256 DT algorithm, which is NovoCoin, and that is available on CPU and GPU for 0.85% fee. They added the ET hash and ETC hash plus the SHA-256 DT dual mining mode. They added Auto Lycos and SHA-256 DT dual mining mode. They lowered the dev fee for SHA-512-256D Radiant algorithm to 0.85%. They reworked auto tune procedure for GPUs, and they added the parameter GPU disable interleaving, which disables interleaving for threads only when same GPU runs 2+ threads. Might get better hash rate in some cases, so that's something you would basically play with. They also added the GPU buffer mode 1, should work more stably on 4GB GPUs now, and some minor fixes and bugs. Let's get into mining profitability, or the lack thereof, right after a word from today's sponsor.
On average, they manufacture 2,000 to 4,000 rigs per month, and currently around 2% of the total Ethereum net hash rate is running in Octominer rigs. They are also an official AMD blockchain partner. Starting July 25th and going through July 29th, use the code OCTO10-072922 on checkout to get 10% off your entire order on their website. please reach out to them at support@octominer.com for any questions.
Boom, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I do have the RTX 3070s back online and mining right now. We are using overclocks within the BZ miner tool. We're sitting around 60 watts at 437 megahash a second, 440, somewhere around there. So these are definitely running on kaspa at this time. As far as finding kaspa blocks, though, we haven't been doing that good. We've only been finding one a day. We should be finding 3 a day. That being said, we turned on some more hash power yesterday. And I think I'm going to rebuild the node on dedicated hardware, because I'm not sure the VM was acting a little funky. And I think that we need new servers. So we have those Dell PowerEdge R720 XDs. There we go. But I think they're getting a little outdated at this point, to be completely frank. And with the way kaspa works, my inclination is that they're doing a lot of the testing on a 3900X with Rust, and I think that because of the way it works with blocks and the way it communicates with the miners, that having a faster CPU on the node probably could be beneficial. I'm going to test it out and see how it goes. Obviously, we used to find a lot of blocks. Now we're not finding as many. We'll just have to go from there. So it's kind of what I'm working on. But what to mine is on an RTX 3090 at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. We do have kaspa in first at 29 cents a day after power. To be honest, I will show you the 3090 here real quick. The RTX 3090. I got these tuned in to 786 megahash a second at 130 watts. Some of them are all the way down to like 120, right? So really, like, if we did clock that in, I think it looks a lot better. Yeah, kaspa ends up making 10 cents a day on the 3090. So a little bit of a quick tip for you guys as far as that is concerned. So there you go. We got, let's see, anything like the next big coin would be Flux, losing 48 cents a day after power. We got Neoxo losing 48 cents a day after power. Vertcoin losing 29 cents a day after power. Ergo losing 32 cents a day after power. Meowcoin losing 50 cents a day after power. Ravencoin losing 51 cents a day after power. Ethereum Classic losing 52 cents a day after power. Let's take a look at mining pool stats. We got Bitcoin here. It is down 4.37% over the past 7 days, sitting just above, hovering just above $16,000 per coin. It is not seeing a reduction in hash rate, though. We're still sitting around 270 exahash a second. Of course, we have all of our ETH coins to take a look at, with Ethereum Classic being the most popular. It's down 12.22% over the past 7 days, meaning that it has dropped further than parity with Bitcoin, and it is sitting at 144 terahash a second. Ethereum Proof of Work has dropped 18%, by far the worst performer so far that we've taken a look at, and that is over the past 7 days, and is sitting at 23.62 terahash a second. And then finally, Ethereum Fair has dropped 23% over the past 7 days, making it now the first place for the worst performing that we've looked at so far, sitting at 2.57 terahash a second. Going from there, we can take a look at Flux, which has been struggling in the past, but now over the past 7 days is looking a little bit better at being up 5.5%. So outperforming, of course, Bitcoin and not hitting parity there. The hash rate's come down to 5.38 mega solutions a second. That's quite a big jump from, previous week being around 7 mega solutions a second. We also have Ergo to take a look at, which is down 6.87% over the past 7 days, maintaining a closer parity to Bitcoin than the rest of the coins we've looked at today. And it's sitting at 35 terahash a second. From there, we can take a look at, oops, wrong one, Ravencoin, which is down 7.5% over the past 7 days and is sitting at 12.21 terahash a second. We also have Kaspa to take a look at, which is what I've been mining. So I'm just going to take a monitor look at it. It is up 48% over the past 7 days. By far the best performer out of the proof of work coins here. And is sitting at 270 terahash a second. However, it's important to note that there are more people that are solo mining it than pretty much any other network. So you'll notice that the network hash rate is actually at 362 terahash a second. However, even with that taken into account, which is 25% of the total hash rate, if we remove that 25% from the 77% of the hash rate being on Woollypool, it's still over 50% hash rate on Woollypool. I'd highly encourage everybody that is currently mining on Woollypool to spread out the hash rate, maybe to K1 pool, as that's a new more like recognized pool. So if you're more comfortable with something like K1 pool, cool. Or you could go with one that was built by the community, of course, like kaspapool.org and so on. Now, I do get that part of the appeal to Woollypool is that it is easy to dual mine with, but it really isn't that hard to dual mine on any other pool either. So, you can still configure that within the miner itself for dual mining if you're interested in dual mining. Me personally, I'm not dual mining because it does seem to make it a little bit more difficult to actually lock in good rates like we were seeing earlier on the overclocks. Then finally, let's look at ASIC miner profitability. We have the Antminer KA3 now launched and in first place, making $36.30 a day on Kadena. To like add to that, these miners are now sold out. Supposedly we should have an Antminer K7 as well, which is going to be for CKB. I don't think that one's launched. I haven't seen it yet, but that one is supposed to do basically $19.74 on CKB. We have the Antminer L7 still kind of in third place, holding strong, doing $3.14 a day on Doge, but the dual mining is really what we care about. Digibyte and Doge at $13.45 a day. Then if we take a look at the Antminer S19 XP, it's sitting at $1.53 a day on Digibyte. We have the Gold Shell HS3 down here doing $3.14 a day. And then if we take a look at our standard, the Antminer S19, it's losing money. So, Antminer S19 Pro still losing money mining Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and get into questions and answers. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated. First to be answered because they're the easiest to read. In addition to that, tagging at Son of a Tech will highlight the message orange, making it easier for me to read. Not as easy as the donations, but pretty easy, much easier. And then definitely check out in the description later today at 3 p.m. We will be doing our first exclusive stream over on Rumble and Locals. And you can come hang out over there from 3 p.m. Central Time to 6 p.m. Central Time because I'm going to go to Jiu-Jitsu right after I am done with this particular show. That will only be today and tomorrow. I have a chance to do Jiu-Jitsu, so I'm trying to do it twice a day right now. So that's noon to 1 and then 6:45 to 8. And so I'm trying to get as much mat time in before the holidays and before I start a day job and can't get as much mat time in. So that's kind of the goal as far as that's concerned. All right. So before we get started, D. Houston, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, man, your schedule stresses me out. I appreciate all you do. Keep your head up. I agree. I am so stressed out because I'm actually not sure how this is going to play out. I might have bitten off more than I can chew, but I have to bite off more than I can chew to survive. because I'm chewing for more than just myself. So that's kind of, but how do you eat an elephant? My mom says 1 bite at a time. So we're going to consume this elephant 1 bite at a time and get it done. Qubit Bites, thank you for the 100, whatever those are, says, hi there, how are you doing today? And he did another 200 and it says, hi there, how are you doing today? I don't know. There you go. All right. So Latrell says, that's not a tech. I add a link on Locals for a paper that Nassim Taleb wrote that explains his issues with Bitcoin. Okay, thank you, good sir. We'll take a look at that maybe in the 3 p.m. stream. Chadwick says, Asylum Attack, BBT reporting on Twitter that 15 to 25% of Bitcoin network hash rate has dropped off. We didn't see that. Interesting. Let's go back over here and look again. I'm not seeing it. Let me go look at his Twitter and see what his source is. This happens every I was told this happens every time. Let me go get that information. I think he's... Hold on. All right, I'll dig into this. Here's what Bit's talking about. He says he was shut off. Last Bitcoin block found over 30 minutes ago. 15 to 25% drop in total Bitcoin hash rate across the network. This is the difficulty estimator. Now, my understanding is that Bitcoin does go through a 30-minute block time every so many blocks, and I forgot how many blocks it is. I don't know if this is part of that, so that would be something I would be interested in. Looks like we had a block 17 minutes ago. Yeah. So they are slowing down in general. So Will Foxley he works for Compass Mining, says that Iris Energy shut down 3.6 exahash a second this morning. And then we know that Core Scientific already went bankrupt, right? So maybe they shut off as well. Marathon seems to be up, though. Interesting. All right. Retro Mike Crypto said at 7tech you can upgrade the 720 XD with the 2697 V2s. I have 2 of them. I already upgraded them. We got Serpent in the chat. Serpent, make sure you put your stream in, or your info in. All right. And May says, that's an attack. If you were to expand your farm right now, which GPUs or ASICs would be your pick? Well, I am looking at trying to expand, and I'm specifically actually looking into FPGAs, the FP33s, but probably going to end up being the FP35s. Shio Kaut says, Asamatech, I have a RX 6900 XT mining kaspa at 850 megahertz, 100 or megahash a second, 155 watts mining to a pool. My rig mines about 300 coins a day, so at this point I'm debating between solo mining for 1 block reward a day or 0 reward a day. Well, if you get 1 block, it's only 311 coins, right? So to do better than you're doing there, you would have to essentially do more, right? So if you look at the Explorer right now, a solo block's going to get 311 kaspa, right? So you would need to hit 2 solo blocks with that for it to really matter. I know that there's some upset people, but Edwin, you can accuse me of being on drugs as much as you want, but I just passed a drug test like literally this week because I have a high-paying job that I'm going to be taking, that like, or a high-level job, excuse me, that I'm going to be taking. High-paying for me, and it depends on who you are, but that requires drug and alcohol testing, so not even drinking. But there you go, bro, as far as that's concerned. Dave says, Asamatech, it does sound like you've taken a big bite. We'll miss the show for a while. Keep the stoicism. Looking forward to watching you again on the other side. Yeah, for sure, man. May says, Asamatech, do you think the GPU mining on KAS will soon be uncompetitive? Yes, I do. Like I said, I'm looking into specifically FPGAs for kaspa. Then Ethan's talking about the Osprey again. I'm just going to say it again on the Osprey E300, like ASIC. I don't necessarily believe that's actually a thing. Did I see Coastal Crypto's review of the Blue Miner L1 and a shout out to you on it? No, I didn't yet. I'll have to check it out. Thanks to those guys. Bill Clancy says, Asamatech, mad respect for you. Thank you, good sir. Lots going on in your life and you keep the head up and moving forward. That's all you can do, man. Kane says, Asamatech, nice hash added iPolo Ethereum Classic ASICs. Interesting. Oh, Digital Fortress says, I want FPGA, but Bitstream access is your main hang-up. Yeah, luckily, like, Team Red Miner's doing a lot of that, so you can use Team Red Miner on a lot of these, especially for, like, the coins I'm interested in, specifically, like, if we're talking about kaspa. So, yeah. I don't know why. I thought I was following max voltage already, but now we are. All right, boys, I'm going to get ready and go to jiu-jitsu. And then we'll be back. We'll do a stream from 3 p.m. Central to 6 p.m. Central, and then I'll go back to jiu-jitsu. Yeah. It's really cold. Yeah, if you look at my what I think my 3070s are like, let's go look real quick. Yeah, in Texas my 3070s are like at like, what's the hottest one? 34C. Intake is 17 degrees Celsius. That's our ambient is 62 degrees. It's pretty dang good right now, boys. Ooh, 62C or 62F, 17C in the farm. Chilly. Plus, it looks like Bitcoin hash rate's dropping off the network, which means my solo Bitcoin miners have a fighting chance. We'll see you guys at 3 p.m. on Rumble. Let me get you that link once again. Make sure you're following over on Rumble. Or actually, it'll specifically be, I think, this. Oops. Nope. Let me see here. I'm learning. I'm learning Rumble along with you guys. So, you know. And embed? Monetized direct URL. What does that mean? It has like a little pre-stream, but I couldn't figure out exactly how to do this the way I want. But we're going to be talking about crypto and stuff over there at 3 p.m. today. So head on over there and get linked up, and we'll see you guys over there. We'll also be live streaming on Locals. The Houston Union getting. We'll talk about that in later today at the 3 p.m. show. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next Tuesday.